Good evening, everybody. I want to say how happy I am to be here with you on the Roadside Parliament. I am pleased to see you all turning out in your numbers to view this evening's proceedings. I am sure that it will be a rather interesting, fiery, respectful, but still powerful enough to represent the people of this country. So again, thank you very much for coming to the Roadside Parliament. This is my second time in this location for the year, and I want to acknowledge all of the residents of the city of Bridgetown and the surrounding environments. I want to thank all of those persons who drove from your respective locations around the island to be here this evening. I want to acknowledge those persons who are also on the internet. I want to thank you for tuning in. So again, welcome to the Roadside Parliament. My role this evening is to pontificate on the changing dynamics of life in this country since May the 24th, 2018. This feels like a scripted Hollywood movie with a superstar leader surrounded by an incompetent cast. I have long dreamt that Barbados as a country has had some of the best and most brilliant leaders across the world. But somehow we've seen a drastic change in the way leadership is deployed in Barbados. I do not know how 30 people has turned our parliament into a clown circus. It is my belief that the unsuspecting population of Barbados was duped into believing that they had some type of magical pill to solve all of the problems of Barbadians. Leading up to the 2018 campaign, when asked Mayor Motley, she said that they were not going to take Barbados to the IMF. They asked all of the political parties, what is your position on taking Barbados to the IMF? From the Stuart government saying no. At one moment, Mayor Motley saying no. Then she came back and said, well, we're unsure. We had downgrade after downgrade after downgrade in Barbados. And some of us celebrated at these things. But now that life has changed, and we've taken the pig out of the bag, we are saying that we have buyer's remorse this evening. One of the first things, and it was a very dangerous precedent that was set in Barbados, was the announcement made 5 days after the change of government in Barbados. That 5 days after the general election, it was announced by the leadership of this country that Barbados was going to default on our debts, and that we're employing a company called White Oaks for $54 million to do debt restructuring in this country. Today, because of White Oaks, we are banned from international credit markets, which means that only the IMF and those type of institutions will lend us. That was by design because the default on the debt caused us to be banned. And the IMF is giving us loans like candy. White Oaks restructured approximately $930 million of Barbados' debt. So the debt went from approximately $1.2 billion owed to the international world, owed to $4 billion plus since 2018. We didn't borrow any money locally because we stopped taking from the NAS. We stopped taking from the central bank. And then on top of that, the government pays approximately $300 million in new taxation under the Burke plan. And that's why you have to pay a garbage and sewage tax. And I will touch on that in detail tonight. That's why you are paying increased bus fares, increased land tax, increased taxes, departure taxes and taxes on travel, taxes at the gas pumps. And these taxes raise or help to raise the prices in Barbados. So that the government collected or is collecting the highest levels of revenue collection ever in the history of Barbados. The highest levels. We heard the former governor of Central Bank, Cleviston Hayes. This is before they replaced him with the now Kevin Greenwich, who was the senior advisor to the government of Barbados as it relates to the IMF program. So he came from the IMF to Barbados. I remember he left Barbados to return to the IMF. And to get him back to Barbados, they offered him the job as the governor of the Central Bank of Barbados. He is the person who walked all over this country to say that we were borrowing 1% loans. Him, Mia Motley, Prasad, Ryan Strong, Lisa Cummings, all of them said we were borrowing 1% loans. But still, Mia Motley can go to Washington and sit in the wells and say to them that she wants the cap to be placed on the interest of these loans because we now have to pay upwards of 400% more on interest that we borrowed from these loans from the IMF and other institutions. This was after they walked this country and said that they did a debt restructuring, a restructuring that was criticized in the Financial Times and all the international media. Our own government of Barbados overpaid Roadside, which was 2 men in a room, making $54 million of Barbadians taxpayer dollars. And again, this was done with a cabinet in place. There was no cabinet in place 5 days after the general election in Barbados. So who made the decision to employ Roadside? That is corruption. I am saying to you, the opposition, and to the members watching online, that the type of economic morass we are going through does not benefit this country. This is all tied to an agenda that is leading to a job for one person at the United Nations. And through the rest of my speech, you will understand more about the connection with the United Nations, the Barbados economy, and why we were strategically defaulted on our debt to be placed into the clutches of the International Monetary Fund. They are saying that this plan, this economic plan they came up with, it's called it homegrown, they say. That is not the IMF's plan, that it is Barbadians who crafted this plan, and we took it to the IMF, and the IMF is endorsing it. That's what they're saying. We know better than that. But anyway, I heard from the lips of the leader of this country that the plan was drafted 2 years before the general election. 2 years, which means that they had that plan in secret with the IMF. Oh, back in 2017. So since they came in from then till now, we've sent 3 IMF programs. And that's nothing to be proud about. We are the first country ever to receive funds from the IMF's new Resilience and Sustainability Fund. And I will tell you what Avinash Prasad said about that. On September 20th, 2022, the Prime Minister of this country had a press conference. And in this press conference, she was asked by a reporter from Barbados Today, what are the details of this new IMF program? And does it include pension reform? Our Prime Minister then responded to the reporter, no, under no circumstances is pension reform included in the new IMF program. She said no. It will be done in the old program, which is the first program we signed in 2018. On December 7th, which is my birthday, so I remember it well. On December 7th, Barbados signed out a new IMF program, and included in the program is pension reform. So you are seeing the moves to maneuver Barbados into the hands of the IMF by lies and trickery and deception, that all the voices of those persons calling themselves economists could be shut down. The head of the Barbados Economic Society was given a job at the IMF. So I am saying to you, my people, the pressure we face from the external world is all about them and not about us. The IMF is not a savior for Barbados. It was not a savior for Greece. It was not a savior for Argentina. It was not a savior for any of the countries in which the IMF rolled out their economic policies. Every single country in the world, in fact, any country that has defaulted on its international debts and entered into the IMF program, it did not last in longevity, but they always had a devaluation of the currency. All of them. So I am saying to you, a country that is performing so poorly in tourism, our main foreign exchange earner, an international business sector that is crumbling, Barbados recording a deficit on its current account of $1 billion a year in losses of foreign exchange, having to borrow $1 billion every year in new loans from the IMF and those banks. There's only a matter of time left before they say to us, we're not giving you any more money. Then what will we have to do when the borrowed reserves run out and the deficit continues to widen? The dollar of Barbados is closer, not only the large reserve, but it's closer to devaluation ever than it ever has been in the history of this country. And I challenge any of them to challenge me on that. This move to sign this new IMF program, we had Avinash Prasad
saying to us that this new IMF plan, along with another US $110 million plus a US $183 million package, they are saying that they are lending us money to reduce our debts. They are saying to us, we are giving you $600 million. We're loaning you $600 million to reduce your debts.
No sense.
So Avinash Prasad said that the money we got from this IMF Sustainability Fund will help to replace segments of the island's drinking water and to shore up the supply of fresh water in light of a climate crisis in Barbados. Opposition, I told you, you have to watch the Barbados Water Authority and what they're doing with our water. And here you have it in black and white. Avinash Prasad saying in the name of the IMF program that they are borrowing this money to tackle the island's drinking water supply. So I'm asking you, my people of the opposition, to focus on the government's agenda as it relates to the changes at the Barbados Water Authority. Because our water is under threat. Did you know that they're bottling our water to sell overseas? Well, they're saying to us that we have a water shortage crisis. Ain't short enough to sell overseas, but it's short enough for us, Barbadians. Because it was never about us. So my people, I am asking you to pay close attention to what is happening there. We later understood as a country why we are going the road we are going. As it was announced by our leader, well, it was announced internationally because they don't speak to us locally. Anyway. But it was announced internationally that Barbados' Prime Minister, in collaboration with the Minister of Finance and Economy in Uruguay, was being appointed to serve as the development chair on the IMF and World Bank committees. They also announced that we would have been the co-chair on the World Health Organization and its group leaders. And a very small piece of world economic history in Barbados is that our debt restructuring is one of the few countries in the world to restructure government treasury bills, thereby robbing the citizens of their savings. That has only happened in Uruguay, and again we're on the same committee with the finance minister from Uruguay. It has happened in Uruguay, it has happened in Ukraine, and it has happened in Russia. Only those countries. So we're making history for the wrong reasons. I want to quote from the Financial Times. The Financial Times said that Barbados, as the chair of the IMF World Bank Committee, has to participate in the selection of a president for the World Bank. And I want to quote our Prime Minister as chairman of the World Bank and IMF Development Committee, saying that her recommendation for president of the World Bank is president of the Rockefeller Foundation. And she also made a recommendation for the Director General of the World Trade Organization to have the position for president of the World Bank. It is important for Barbadians to know the support that we as a country deploy for the Rockefeller Foundation and to understand why Barbados will be pushing for the Rockefeller Foundation or the president of that foundation to be the president of the World Bank. Our leader, again, appointed Avinash Prasad to be the special advisor on climate change. They also appointed Liz Thompson to be Barbados' ambassador plenipotentiary for climate change. Not sure what Liz Thompson knows about climate change. But on the Avinash Prasad recommendations, we created a bank in Barbados. And the announcement for this bank was made by our Home Affairs Minister, Wilfred Abrams. And this new bank was called a Blue-Green Bank. This Blue-Green Bank was approved $30 million this year of July. And did you know Avinash Prasad is the chairman of the same bank? So they were given $30 million from the bank. And I want to say to you, I want to give you who were the persons who initially contributed to the startup of this Blue-Green Bank. So they're saying to us that we got this $30 million from what we call the Green Climate Fund. And if you're following these activities, there are a coalition of banks all around the world, the IMF, the IDB, the World Bank Group, the European Investment Banking Group. And these international banking institutions came together to be lending countries in the name of climate change. I read some IMF documentation from the IMF director. She also came to Barbados. She also has a copy of Alternate Views, by the way. So the IMF director came to Barbados, and they spoke about this new IMF plan, this Resilient Sustainability Plan. And this plan, they said, is aimed at developing new non-debt investments in nature and social capital. And they also say, hear this part carefully, they also say that we'll be looking to bring new low-cost, long-term financing instruments, basically debt, to Barbados to invest in resilient water But we took the piper's money. And as she said, they're coming for our children. You heard how many times they mentioned the IDB tonight and how much money we took from them. So do you understand why we could do nothing on these service? Do you understand why we could do nothing about these service? I will say to you, my people, because I don't want to lose you about the Rockefeller point. I want to quote the leader of this country again on establishing the Blue Green Bank. When she gave again about a thank you speech, she said us, and I quote, "We are grateful for the financial support from the Green Climate Fund and the establishment of our Blue Green Bank. We are grateful to the IMF, we are grateful to USA, and we are grateful to the Rockefeller Foundation." So we are seeing that Barbados is pushing the agenda to be recommending the president of the Rockefeller Foundation to be the president of the World Bank. And we are understanding why. Because the Rockefellers are giving money to Barbados to run this Blue Green Bank. And it is all reported from the leader of our country. Did you know that a retreat occurred in Barbados? And this retreat included senior officials from the UN. The Deputy Secretary General was in Barbados. The Urban Society Foundation, George Soros, that foundation was in Barbados. The Rockefeller Foundation was at that retreat in Barbados. The Prime Minister of Canada, he was online virtually in that retreat. So we're understanding the direction in which this economy is going. It is not going for Barbados and Barbadians. So in unraveling this relationship Barbados now has with the IMF, that you are now gaining deeper levels of understanding of what's happening economically in this country, Barbados, where the people are being disadvantaged for a new agenda. An agenda that included bringing poisonous sticks to Barbados. And nobody's commenting on the amount of injuries Barbadians are facing from this stick. So I am saying, Barbadians, I am saying to you, pay close attention, because they're coming for our water. They went for the children, now they're coming for our water. Water is one of the most important elements in humanity. So I am saying to you, Barbadians, understand. Because when I made the prediction, and it is included in alternate views, that they were going to privatize the Barbados Water Authority. During Compover Week, when we were all distracted, the same way that snuck through the NAS changes, our Deputy Prime Minister, Santiago Balshaw, left Barbados and went to Amsterdam to consult with the Dutch government, Dutch universities, and the Dutch private sector as it relates to water management companies. And she came back and brought back the changes that you now see in this Barbados Water Authority Amendment Act. This act that speaks directly to the sweeping changes of the Water Authority. It spoke about restricting water use in Barbados, people. They fired the general manager. Then the same guy who said that he was spending the sewage tax as he felt like, by the way. They made his post redundant to create two, a chief executive officer and a chief operations officer. Because they're looking to put their person as the chief executive officer because they know all of the new climate funds will be deployed to tackle, and as I mentioned earlier, water facilities, water management. And this was handed down by the IMF, the IDB, the Rockefeller, the Open Society, the Blue Green Bank. So even your water, you will no longer have full control over if they get to do what they're planning to do with the Barbados Water Authority. So I'm asking you, the opposition, to stand up against that type of tyranny in Barbados. They, since 2018, has moved this organization off budget to do off budget financing. And they move that sewage tax collection from coming to the consolidated fund to run it through the Barbados Water Authority, an institution that has not tabled financial statements for some time. And you can quote that from the Auditor General's report. That a tax that's making $80 million a month in Barbados. Nobody can account for it. How can you be making $18 million a month in Barbados and there's no public document or statement that you can reference to account for that type of money in this country? And the water is still brown and black and green.
Or none at all.
Or no water at all. We used to pay $30 in water bill. Now you got to pay $70 or $80. About $100. But I want to say to you that since 2007, the IMF has been saying to the government of this country that we need to raise water rates in Barbados if we want to turn around the financial situation there. That advice was rejected up until these law came in. And I asked Dr. Kemar, who's on the Public-Private Partnership Committee for the Water Authority, that was announced by Charles Griffith, who's the member for St. John, that he talked with for Abrams to St. John to tell the people who want to handle water for months who have a joy tax, that the joy tax have a leak. That's what they did. So I am saying, when I asked Master about this committee, I'm prioritizing the thing. Master's response was, man, you have to find the right price for water. What is the right price? And if you read the IMF documentation, it clearly says an automatic adjustment upward in the price of water. So they're telling you what they plan to do. So I am saying, my people, we need to look at what's happening at our water institution. Because one last thing that I want to touch on here is this sewage plant in Barbados. We had sewage flowing on the streets of Barbados, and it is my belief that the sewage was sabotaged. They found beds, stoves, fridges. You could have gotten a whole house out of the sewage plant. Magically, after the government changed, they say that the sewage cleared. That was not exactly accurate. They were running the sewage through the greenhouse swamp and throwing it out to the sea. We, again, are making $80 million in European sewage tax, and that sewage tax is supposed to fix the sewage. Then the government put aside $131 million in capital works projects in their budget to tackle the sewage again. Then they borrowed, no, they got 18 million US in grants from the European Investment Bank to fix the sewage. They got loans from the Chinese to fix the sewage. So where is all of this money going to fix the sewage? So I did a little research on that. And if you listen to the leader of our country, when she spoke about this debt swap to get an additional US $300 million to fix the sewage again, you probably say, well, you know, we have to fight to keep the sewage under the management of the Barbados Water Authority. Why do you feel she wants to keep it there? Because they understand how the money is flowing through there. 80 million on accounted for. You had 3 or 4 boards that resigned from the Water Authority since they came in. And the boards that resigned said they were giving the same contracts to the same players all of the time. So it shows you the corruption. So I am saying to you, my people, this debt swap that they want to bring to fix this sewage plant is thereby in and about the same thing to have these philanthropic organizations coming in to buy up Barbados' debt. Because if they can buy our debt, our international debt, by the way, we don't owe them. Which means that if they say they want all of their money, we have to pay all of their money. If you don't want to pay, you have to do what they say. So that is why our pension is being cut. I look forward to hearing Charles Bell tonight on that. That is why the change in the Water Authority. That is why they're reforming the education system. Because I never spoken to them about that too. Because they just don't want to start charging us to go to school. It happens in the Caribbean. You got to pay to go to school in Jamaica. And Jamaica went through one of the longest IMF programs in the Caribbean. So don't think that it can't happen here. It's already on the way. So we need to further people like Kemar before we make changes to the education system. So people, to wrap up, we need to focus our sights and to expound upon these issues that plague us. That we are now the baby, the girl in the short skirt for the international community. For them to give us anything and everything and to continue to pimp us out to the highest bidders to satisfy the whims and fancies of rich billionaires in this world who continue to live the lives of sadists. So we are calling for liberation this evening. And as this opposition goes forward and the people of Barbados go forward to take our government back from the rulers of tyranny and dictatorship, that we return democratic and democratically run institutions, a democratic parliament, and most of all, free and fair and economic opportunity and upliftment for all Barbadians, color, class, or creed. Thank you very much. Enjoy speaking to you.